James Shaw, 5 minutes.
Speaker, I rise to speak on the Environmental Reporting Bill. The Green Party would have liked to have been able to support this bill because we do suffer in this country from a lack of information about the state of our environment. And we did support the referral of the Environmental Reporting Bill to the Select Committee. Unfortunately, we are not able to support the bill in its later stages because of the lack of independence over who is going to be determining what gets reported on. I started my career at PricewaterhouseCoopers in the UK, where we were starting to look at non-financial indicators of reporting, and that included environmental capital, natural capital, it included social capital, intellectual capital, and so on. And what was critically important was that the public and investors actually understood that the criteria that were being reported against were independent and not determined by the company that was being reported on. And this bill kind of fails that standard. It's sort of one of the previous speakers on this bill did say that they felt that it's better to be doing something than nothing, and given that we have such woeful inadequacy around our reporting at the moment, that's not an unreasonable argument to make. Except that doing something like this and enabling ministers to have to be able to determine what gets reported on is actually worse than doing something. It's a bit like the government's approach to climate change. You see, having an emissions trading scheme enables the government to say, we're doing our bit, we've got an emissions trading scheme, but given that actual emissions are increasing and will increase by 48% net by 2020, is actually saying, well, it's okay, we're doing our bit, we've got in place an emissions trading scheme, we're one of the world leaders, but if your actual emissions are increasing, then the policy has no impact and you might as well not do it. It is merely a smokescreen. So, unfortunately, because of Clause 18 in this bill, we cannot support it through in the later stages. We believe that it should be up to there are a number of options to solve this. One is that the government statistician could simply decide what those are going to be. Another option is that the areas that are going to be reported on could actually be laid down in law. I have a bill a members' bill in the ballot at the moment called the Sustainability Indicators Bill, which actually covers a number of different areas that would be laid down in legislation if we were interested in actually having an independent set of criteria that we said, well, these are the things that we ought to be reporting on. So we can only have credible reporting of any kind, including environmental reporting, if it's independent and free from the interference of ministers, and unfortunately this bill doesn't do that. The minister here actually does have full control over what gets reported, and I think that the chair of the Local Government and Environment Select Committee during his speech to the bill earlier said that this is exactly the same as in our financial reporting. It actually isn't. What gets reported on our financial reporting is actually laid down in law. So I'm sorry to say that we're unable to support this. We did support it through the Select Committee. We note that there were well over 300 submitters, and the vast majority of them talked about this matter of independence. I think if this was an education report, we would have to finish with the words "must try harder." So with that, Mr. Speaker, I'm afraid that the Green Party will not be supporting this bill through its next stage.
Reno Turikardini.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to join in opposition to this bill, sir, for the reasons that have been outlined by Mr. Shaw. Whilst the Labour Party supports the intent of this bill, and we did support it at the first reading, unfortunately, the main thrust of the bill is its lack of independence. And it's all great to have you know, experienced officials and the statistician and the Secretary for the Environment involved in producing these reports. However, sir, the actual topics that those reports will cover is completely in the domain of the government and the minister. It is true. And so that, therefore, the member that just resumed her seat before, Ms Hayes, I mean, there's no better example of our opposition to this bill than from her speech, sir, because she talked about this so-called independence. She talked about the wonderful work that has been going on in the various domains, water quality, air, and various other domains which are covered by this bill, sir. But, however, sir, she and I'm referring back to her speech before she was